All right, guys, welcome to the Middle Jesus Podcast panel episode, whatever we're doing. I'm the most clueless person here, probably this way.
You got this.
Yeah, I want to hand it over to Kelsey.
To do what?
I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming. Really, really appreciate it. We heard this was sold out, and it blew us away.
Yeah.
Blew us away, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys.
So our idea for this panel was, just to wing it.
Our plan is we have no plan.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Maybe if you guys have some questions for us,
Yeah, so we'll do like a Q&A sort of thing. So there's a lot of us here, big collectors of all different kinds of stuff. We probably should, though, kind of go down the line maybe and kind of talk about, or just basically mention who we are in case you don't know, and then kind of what some of your passions are as far as games and collecting. You can keep it kind of short. So
Sure.
Let's start with Mr. John Riggs here.
Cool. Well, I'm John Riggs. I'm legally obligated to say how you feeling.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Good Lord. Oh dear Lord. No, I collect for. I grew up. I was born in 1977, so I grew up with the Atari 2600. That's where I found a love for video games, but the NES was my passion for video games, so the NES is my favorite of all time. But I love collecting for the obscure, like Famicom Disk System, PC Engine CD. I grab some stuff for the CDI, as much as I don't really care for the CDI. It's just so weird to see CDI stuff, so if I find some, I usually grab that. But I'm mostly I love imports, and I'm just a fan of like the 8-bit, 16-bit era for sure. And I thank you for being here. This is year 2 for me. So there was actually enough outcry to request me to come back. So it's thanks to the people who are here at year 2 who said, please bring him back. So I thank you for inviting me back. This is awesome. So thank you.
You think you'd learn?
I'll make you really sick of me later today for sure.
I'm Kelsey, and I do a lot of weird stuff. I mostly collect weird stuff. Most of you guys know that I am a big WonderSwan fan, and I'm going for a full WonderSwan set, which includes some weird stuff like a fishing sonar for the WonderSwan. That is a real thing. So
It's not a game, it's a...
well, it's like an application. But
Okay, oh,
full set includes it all.
yeah.
It's a game if you make it a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Fishing's a game, kind of.
It is, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I collect a lot of import sort of things and handheld stuff. Got a huge DS collection, Vita collection, and also I co-own a video game store in Seattle, Washington called Pink Gorilla Games. Co-owner sitting right there.
Cody, raise your hand.
Hi,
Don't
Cody.
stare at him. So, yeah. There's not much to say about me. I can keep it short pretty easily.
Very cool.
Good at short.
Yeah, she's good at short.
My name is Jason, known as Middle Jesus Rocks, obviously on YouTube. Thank you so much for having me. As many of you know, as I got my start at working at a company called Sierra Online in the 1990s. Basically, they moved their corporate headquarters from Oakhurst, California, up to Bellevue, Washington. Got a job there. And I was into video games before then, but that really kicked off my passion for big box PC games, because we put out a ton of them at that time, and it was a great time to work there. So that's... In my game room, I have a little of everything, but big box PC games from the 80s and 90s, we're talking Commodore 64, MS-DOS, Amiga, that sort of stuff is my real passion, and it's fun to collect for, so that's me.
I'm Kinsey. I also sometimes go by Kinzilla, and I don't know, I'm collect what I'm going to play, collect what I like. I've been playing games my whole life. Like, my first memory ever is my dad playing Zelda. So that's kind of like what sparked everything. So now, of course, I'm a Zelda collector. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy collector, Sailor Moon collector. I'm all over the place. And everyone always asks me, what are you looking for at this convention? And I'm like, I'll know it when I see it.
Right.
So I like more the unusual stuff. I collect 360 controllers. That's not really unusual. But
It is a little bit.
I mean, I guess the act
There's
of
a lot of
collecting
them.
it is
Yeah.
unusual. There is a lot of them.
Yeah.
I chose wrong.
And you go to thrift stores. You go to thrift stores a lot, and that's where you'll find those.
Yeah, I'm what you would call a broke collector. So,
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of money, so I do a lot of thrift stores, yard sales, things I can get on the cheap. That's what I'm gonna get.
I am Reggie, also known as Radical Reggie. I got my start in the video games at a very young age. I think I was around 4, 5 years old. My brother worked at a pizza shop, and he was babysitting me there, and I was playing the arcades, and I was doing really good. A lot of people came and started cheering for me while I was playing the game, because I was a little kid standing up on a chair, so I was high enough to play the game, and I was doing well, and I'll never forget that. So that's what kind of inspired me to get into video games, people cheering me on, and then next thing you know, you guys know I'm pretty much a PlayStation collector, but I've kind of transcended to freaking import stuff, so that's mainly what I collect now, so yeah.
It's kind of a natural possession too. Like you play all the American stuff and you're like, well, what else is there?
Exactly.
You find the Japanese market is full of like that plus then some of these games that you missed out on,
That's true. So we're going to kind of just open it up to people. If you have a question.
There's an open mic right behind this camera.
Oh,
so you can feel free
There you
to
go. Sweet.
Form a line behind it, I guess. Yeah.
form a line.
Or not.
You can just, you guys can just stare at us.
I'm a fantastic dancer, I'm just saying.
Karaoke up here.
What up?
Hi there, guys.
Hey.
Hello again. Saw you earlier this morning. Got you all stuff. So hopefully some of it's not too large to take home.
We got this.
Yeah, we got this.
We can ship it
Appreciate
back.
you.
All right. My question for the panel is, with the skyrocketing cost of the PlayStation TV, do you think that Atlas will ever re-release Persona 3 Portable or Persona 4 Golden on PS4 or Switch? Because if you haven't looked, a PS TV now on Amazon goes for $160.
Is
Wait,
this the
for
Vita?
PlayStation television?
Yes.
Is it really?
You kidding me?
Yes.
They're like
No, I'm not kidding you.
They're
Like,
crazy.
Persona spiked up a bit after 5 came out, so.
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
I got mine on clearance from work at, yeah.
Like $20 probably?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
Well, that's the amazing thing about the PlayStation TV is that it is basically just a Vita, right? But you can use your PlayStation 3 controllers, and it's amazing. Like, Sony really dropped the ball on that thing, I feel like.
Yeah.
Basically kind of crippling
Yeah,
what games
I
could
think
play on
Nintendo
it.
kind of
Yeah.
ran with the idea that what they wanted the Vita to be. So hopefully, I think that will get released on the Switch maybe.
Yeah.
Huh.
Something.
Interesting.
Yep.
I didn't know that. I really like that device a lot.
I tried to get one to flip, but it was gone. So there was a pawn shop where my cousin lives in Southern Illinois that was selling it for $50, and at that time the TVs were only $100. I was like, it's not really worth it. And then it spiked up to $150, $160, and then
Only
it was
$100,
gone.
wow.
So
Is that
yeah.
the white one or the black one?
No,
the black one.
just the black one.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know
to
eBay because
know.
I don't sell on eBay. I do on Amazon. And so.
Right.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thank you. Oh,
Oh,
Same problem I have, I'm sorry.
hey, you want to tilt it down there? Thanks, buddy.
I have a question for, I forgot your first name, but I know the last part is Jesus. so
sure.
sorry.
Yeah, Jason.
How'd you come up with your name?
How did I come up with my name? Basically, I used to work this kind of corporate job where I was in IT help desk at a real estate company. And as you can imagine, real estate companies are very buttoned up. You're supposed to, they kind of dress like bankers a little bit. And I was the guy who wore rock t-shirts, long hair, and I had a server in my office that basically had terabytes of heavy metal on it. And I basically shared this out with the rest of the company, and so they kind of got, I was the guy who had Pantera and Bullet for My Valentine and Megadeth and all this stuff. And I'll never forget that we were in a corporate meeting in this meeting room with all these bigwigs, including the CEO of the company. And my coworker turns to me, he's like, "So, Metal Jesus, what do you think about this?" I was just, and I was like, "What?" And the CEO, who was very buttoned up, was kind of like, but he didn't address it. So anyways, at that point, it
Is
was.
that your real name?
What's that?
Was he like, was that your real name?
Yeah,
Your name is Metal
he didn't
Jesus.
know me, right? So that was definitely an awkward moment. But when it came time for YouTube, I just liked having a name that hopefully people could kind of remember, and also would give me the opportunity to not only just do video game stuff, but music and that sort of stuff. So it's meant to be a little bit generic for that reason.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This is just kind of a logistical question, especially when you do collaboration videos. How does that work, communication? There's any snafus or issues that you have with such a big crew? And where do those ideas usually generate from? Is it you specifically, or is it like, hey, let's do this video, or what?
Does anybody want to take this?
I can talk about it a little bit. It's not as organized as you might think it is. We have like group messages, and sometimes we'll just be texting each other. I mean, sometimes it'll literally be like, hey, I found this weird thing. Can we do a video on this?
Yeah.
So there's no like schedule or anything like that. It's just kind of, once we have figured out one major or a couple videos to do at the same time, we'll be like, you know, none of us live like right next door to him. So it's kind of we got to plan it. So we'll be like, okay, well, how about the 7th? I'll come over and we'll shoot this video and this video. And that's pretty much how it works. And when we do the ones that you've been doing recently where it's all of us answering the same question.
Like in different locations?
Yeah, we'll often just send in those clips to him, and some of us, like me, are really bad about it. So then he'll be like, all right, we're shooting this other video. Also, answer all these questions at once.
Yeah, so what happened, what she's referring to is I was like, I really want to get a video out. What are you doing Tuesday? I'll show up at your work. And that's exactly what we did. So we ran around Seattle, and I shot that answer, 4 of them that day.
So I'm wearing the same shirt in like 4 videos, so just
Yeah.
deal with it.
They're spaced out.
But typically, I have a list of about 30 ideas that I sort of want to do, because I put out 2 videos a week, and I need to be ahead in order to do that. So I always have like a list of about 8 videos that are in some sort of production, whether I'm doing them or these guys are a part of that or whatever. And then I basically just kind of go, okay, this might be a cool video for Kelsey. Let's see if she wants to do it, or Kinsey or Reggie or something like that.
And we'll turn down videos if we think it's not right for us. Like,
Right.
you know, if you're like,
Like, I'm not the
if you
guy.
want to do the Super Nintendo video, I'd be like, that's probably more of like a John thing or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, we'll defer to each other if we feel like we're not the best person for it.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes too, because like you mentioned John Hancock. So John Hancock is obviously, he couldn't be here today, but you know, he has 25,000 games. He has multiple complete collections. So I can do every video with John because he's got it all, right? But I like to mix things up and, you know, do different things. John is fun to do because he's got the crazy stuff. He's got the stadium events. He's got everything. It's, you know, almost everything. So, yeah.
Good question.
Hey guys, I've been playing a lot of co-op with my son over the last 6 to 9 months or so. Pretty much no time for single player games because a lot of co-op. I watch your guys' channels. I never really see you guys actually playing the games other than like the test footage that you use. Do you guys ever actually like hang out and play games at like full length or actually try to beat something? Ever?
Occasionally.
Occasionally.
It wasn't a co-op game, but I remember when we were at the beach house, I played Resident Evil 2 on the N64, I think, and I think I played it all the way through and I beat it. And Jason, you were there when I did that.
Yeah.
So that's what comes to mind as far as playing games together.
We just don't live
We
really
don't.
close
We're all
to each
like
other,
far-
Yeah.
so there's not a lot of opportunity for that. It's not
Any-
that we don't want to.
Do
It's
you guys
just-
have any like online co-op games that you guys play together? Or?
We want to play Friday the 13th, but I haven't got anybody to join me on that yet.
Yeah, I know.
Play Splatoon with
Reggie-
me.
Well, you said it out loud now, so
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
gotta happen.
I
You
did
gotta
play
stream it, right?
Splatoon with
Reggie and I
you
played a lot of Friday the
Yeah,
13th.
yeah,
when it
we
first
played-
came out.
we did-
Yeah,
we
Reggie
did.
and I played a lot of
Yeah.
Friday the 13th with,
Yeah.
with Crazy Joe.
And also too, I mean, you know, you mentioned it. It's actually on Tuesday is a video that her and I is putting out where we're in the game room playing Diddy Kong Racing, and that video was a thing where I was like, come on over, let's play a bunch of, you know, games and sort of film it and just have a good time. So-
Yeah.
And she destroyed me.
Spoiler.
Yeah, and like,
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Me, you, and Troy sometimes will have game hangs.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It happens occasionally.
The thing is that, and to go a little bit deeper than that, you know, there's a difference between shooting a video and also shooting like just hanging out. And so I definitely, if we're hanging out, I don't really like to have the cameras on because I don't want people to have to worry about whatever, you know, so there's definitely kind of a different mentality. These Let's Plays we do, we know the camera's there, so you're just a little bit more wacky or weird, you know, at least I am.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to say, as a father, I really appreciate the way you guys conduct yourselves on your video, that I can have it on in the background with my little boy running around, and I don't have to worry about language or whatever, so I
Right.
really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Yeah.
My big question is for Metal Jesus and Kinsey, when you got that big pickup for the PC games,
Wow.
Yeah.
talk to me about the space that you have left, or any space that you have left, because that seemed like,
It was insane.
It was pretty
Yeah.
crazy. It was pretty crazy. So the way that happened is kind of, so basically this guy, he's ex-military, and he didn't want to be on camera. Because I was like, we're going to go here and film all this stuff. This is
Yeah.
amazing. So he had an ad on Craigslist for 2 weeks, and nobody responded to him. And and I didn't see it. A friend of mine messaged me. He's like, dude, you might want to check this out. And the reason why I think people ignored it, because he lives in Bremerton, which is a ferry ride away from Seattle.
And that varies like an hour.
Yeah.
And it's an hour. So that worked in our favor, because I was like, Kinsey, let's go.
You
know?
were like, can you call in sick to work?
Yeah, I did. I was like, call in sick, right? Because like, I don't have any vacation days. I'm like, just pretend you're going to puke, right? And thankfully, she went along with me, and it was really fun. So we basically show up at this guy's house. It's all in immaculate condition. And we're talking
Yeah.
20 years worth of PC games. So many so that we had to do 2 SUV trips. Actually, the second trip, which I didn't film, was with Paul. I mean, literally, it's one of those SUVs where all the seats go flat, and you just piled them in. It was crazy. And then, so to answer your question, what did we do with all this stuff? So, since Kinsey went with me, I gave her first dibs. So basically, I picked out a couple things that I was really excited about. Then you got first dibs.
Yeah, I kind of loved it because me and you were like, we had all the games
Yeah.
like on the floor in the game room.
We're rolling
which was,
around.
Like, basically, and we were like sitting on the
Angels.
floor
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like going through
It was like
them.
we're 8 years old, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
It was really fun.
It was really fun. And the hilarious thing is, so she gets first dibs, right? And I'm not going to call you a hoarder, but she's got a smart car. Do you know what those things are? Smart cars. They're not even legally cars, in my opinion, okay? How many games did you pack in there? You couldn't even see to drive home. You were sitting on games?
It was bad. And then like, because I think that time, like, Tony was there for some reason. And
Yeah.
he picked me up, and that's my boyfriend, and he was helping us load, and he was like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Like, and then I was in the passenger seat, and then you had to load games on me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, I'll get in, and then you like.
What did you do when you got home? Did you just like roll out or something, you know? And so that still left hundreds of games left in my game room, right? And then basically what I did is I reached out on Facebook. There's a couple really popular Seattle retro gaming forums on Facebook, and I basically was like, hey, okay, who wants some of this stuff? And so I got responses from a buddy of mine named Dave Nunez, who's big into flight sims.
Yep.
That's where that military, because this guy had every flight sim ever made. So a lot of those went to Dave, and then another local collector as well. His name's Kevin. So I was very happy to kind of see those go to a good home, because this guy literally told me, if you don't show up tomorrow, it's all going to Goodwill. And he was serious.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty interesting.
And he had better prices than Goodwill would have.
Yeah, because I mean, we paid him, well, he only wanted $75.
Yeah.
And there were 600 games.
Yeah.
It was insane.
It was insane.
I remember too, like, we loaded everything and we closed the car doors, and I was like,
Well, yeah. Yeah. We drove around the corner to a park, and we were like, oh my God, this is happening. You know? Yeah.
We got away with it.
Yeah, we got, yeah.
that's how
Well,
I
thank
felt.
It was pretty
Thank
fun. Yeah.
Hello. First, I want to thank everyone for coming out and for
Awesome.
uploading so much content. I'm subscribed to all of your channels and
Nice.
they
Thank
provide
you.
a lot
Thank
of
you.
awesome
Appreciate you.
I'm particularly a big fan of the recent pickups with, all of you, but Reggie and Jesus. But,
Yep.
Oh, thanks.
so my question is primarily for Kelsey, but I guess all of you. If somebody comes in the store and wants to trade in a game that you really like and you've been wanting for a long time, but you know it's going to make a profit, how do you do, can you
Remember, Cody's in the room here.
Cody. It never came in.
can you tell us a little bit about how you go through that
Yeah.
internal management, and can you give us an example? of
Sure,
an
yeah. So typically, thankfully I'm at the point with my collection where there's very little that I feel like I need to have right now. So this doesn't happen often, but occasionally, the most recent example I can think of is a regular customer of ours was trading in a bunch of stuff, and it included some WonderSwan stuff. And it was mostly stuff I already had, but he had one game in there that's about a $90 game. And I was just like, look, I'm taking this, I'm sorry. So most of the time I let it go, especially, there's a lot of little things on my wish list, a $15 game here, a $20 game here. I typically just let most of those go into the store. I'll find them again, they're not super expensive. But if it's something that I'm like, I don't know when I'm gonna run into this again, that's when I might take it. And sometimes I will just pay the store what I paid the person, so I'm not totally taking it away from the store, but It depends on how much is getting traded in at one time. So in this example, it was several $100s worth of stuff. So me taking out that one game, we were still able to make a profit on the entire thing as a whole. But if it was just that game, I would probably just pay the store the same amount I paid the person for it.
And also, too, correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been told this by other store owners, that eventually almost everything comes in, right?
Yeah.
So while Earthbound might be rare and hard to find, you know that eventually an Earthbound will walk
No,
in.
it always comes back.
Yeah.
It always comes back.
It
yeah.
always comes in. Yeah.
That's why, like I said, I really will only take something like, in that instance, a $90 Wonder Swan game. When am I going to see that again? That one might actually not come in again for
Right.
a super
Yeah.
long time. So that I would take, but in general, I usually let it go.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi. So what inspired you guys to make a YouTube channel?
You want to start?
Me?
Or
For
Reggie started
me,
talking.
I really didn't want to.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I got such good feedback on Jason's channel, you know, over, I think it was like 2 years later, I was talking with Jason about it, and I said, you know, I got all these good letters from people that said they loved me on the channel, so I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and try it, and the feedback was good, and next thing you know, I was doing just regular pickups videos. I didn't have the best quality, of course, and you see my older videos, but I looked at it also as a way to kind of document myself over the years and like, you know, how I've changed and everything, kind of like, you know, just archive footage and everything. And I went back and watched the old video, and I totally forgot I did that, and I was like, wow, I'm glad I documented this. So the feedback's been really good, and I think that's why I kind of kept going, and people kind of cheering me on to do my own channel, so that's why I've kind of stuck with it. So it's been good.
Awesome.
Yeah, I didn't want to do one either. You remember, like, at first you were like, well, people are asking, why don't you have your own channel? And I was like,
yeah.
work. But what actually really helped, well, learning so much from Jason.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and my boyfriend's actually very interested in photography, and the technology part was what was really like scaring me off. I'm not a good editor. I don't know anything about cameras. It's really scary, you know.
There's a lot to learn.
And so my boyfriend's like, hey, I will shoot them, and we will make them look good, and we can do this all together. And it was great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I also didn't want to start a channel.
This is hilarious. I didn't know this.
Yeah, I mean,
Thanks,
again,
Jason.
it's like exactly what Reggie said. People just started being like, well, why don't you have one? And I was
Yeah.
like, well, if you all want it, I guess.
Yeah.
They keep cheering you on, and you're like, oh.
Yeah,
okay.
and so I'm kind of like, I'm a pretty serious person, I feel like, and I didn't want to start it until I felt like I could make something that was actually interesting and different and not, you know, I didn't want to just do the same kind of stuff over and over again. So I waited until I really felt like I'd found a good niche. And I feel like I have, but it obviously takes me forever to make those videos, so.
And I wanted to start my own channel.
What?
However, I didn't plan for it to be a full-on channel. Like if you go back and like watch the first videos I did with Jason, I didn't plug my YouTube channel at the end of one because I had a channel, but not really. I made repros, I made game hacks, but I got to a point where people kept asking me, hey, can you make this hack for me, or can you make me this repro? And I was like, when I learned how to make repros, there wasn't really any documentation online in language I can understand, because I don't have an electronic engineering degree or anything. So I was like, I'll show you how I make these games so you can make them yourself. And because it shouldn't be a hidden secret or anything. And that's when I got into the game hacks. I was like, too many people are asking me like, hey, can you make me a marriage proposal where at the end of Mario Brothers he proposes or something? I was like, I can, and I've done that before. I've done it before. But this is so time consuming. So I was like, you know what? I can actually record tutorials on how you can edit graphics, how you can edit text, how you can change colors with text editing. And that was going to be my channel, was just going to leave it static and never update it, and there it is. But then more people would say like, well, how do you do this? I was like, well, I can do a quick video on that, so I'll do that video. And then when it started being like, it started growing a little bit, and again with Jason's help, he was like, well, if you start a channel that could be consistent and have like, one video a week, same time every week. And I was like, I can do something. So oddly enough, I don't know if you watch my channel, but I do something called open cart surgery, which it's just the name I came up with literally 90% of the time cleaning games with a 1-up card. That's really all it takes. Though, oddly enough, that was my throwaway video. That was like the in-between tutorial videos and how to hack stuff. I'm just going to do this quick open cart surgery video as the throwaway video. But then I started seeing massive growth and way more views on those than on the thing I was focusing on. So I was like, well, maybe I'll just do more of the thing that people want to watch and never mind so much of like game reviews. Like on my channel, nobody cares about game reviews. They want to see how to fix stuff, you know. So, so that's kind of how I got in. And then just from there, you know, it brought me here. That's where it came down to. So, you know, so I'm glad I started it. And I still have those tutorial videos on there if you ever want to check them out.
And then for me, I've always been into video a little bit. So I was the kid back in the 80s who would save up his money to rent a VHS video camera and shoot my own home movies. And then in the 90s, I got laid off from my job, and so I decided to go to the University of Washington for audio production and engineering. Got a job in a recording studio. I thought I was going to record bands because that's what I was really into. But what I realized that those people also make commercials. And so I got a little bit of training on a Mac, using Final Cut, using Premiere, and then it just sort of rolled into YouTube. Actually, the thing that sent me over that was that I had a video. So the day that the iPad came out, the iPad 1, I ran down to Best Buy, bought one. There was nobody in line because nobody cared. I went home and I did a video comparing the iPad to the Commodore 64, spec by spec. And like the best part about that was that I would compare the thickness of the Commodore box to the iPad, and the Commodore box was thinner. Anyways, so that video blew up, and it was like, oh, this is kind of fun. I can kind of do these sort of silly videos, and that's sort of where it started.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Good question. Thank you.
Good question.
Hey guys, two-parter. First one for Kinsey. Your go-to beer, like when you're back home in
Oh
Seattle.
boy, how much time do you got?
How much
Well,
time do you have?
no. Like your one that you would, you come home, and then second part would be like for everybody. Now that you're getting popular on YouTube and get recognized, do you get recognized a lot in your hometown and on your travels? And if so, can it get annoying? Or like say you're out, with your wife, Jason, and and somebody wants a photo. Does she get like, oh my God?
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious about the beer.
I'll start with the beer. And my go-to beer, I'm trying to think of a lot, and then narrow it down to one very quickly. Oh my God. And my go-to is probably Black Butte Porter, which is
Ooh,
yours
good
too.
answer. All right.
Because I do like darker beers, but what's nice about Black Butte Porter, or porters in general, is like I like darker beers, but they're not as heavy as, say, like a stout. They're like a light dark beer, but dark in color. You'll understand.
If we had samples, we'd give them to
Yeah,
you.
we would. But it's super drinkable, but still has flavor. And so I can drink that while playing games, and it doesn't and it's not super high alcohol either. So it's
That's good.
It's nice.
It's from Oregon.
Yeah, it's from Oregon. It's from
Gotcha.
Deschutes
Okay.
Brewing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
So to answer your question about do I get recognized,
And where's the weirdest place you've been recognized? How about that while we're at
That's
it?
funny.
like even here, did anybody like in the
yeah,
airport?
in the airport.
Anybody?
So in Seattle, it definitely happens a lot. Primarily because we have so many video game companies there. Nintendo's there, Microsoft's there, Valve is there. Everyone's there, right? So there's a lot of those. There's a lot of my people who watch my channel. The one that when people ask me like what was the most annoying or weirdest place it was really just.
Oh, me and Kinsey were actually talking about this.
So one day, I don't know why, it was a Tuesday morning, I was hungover as hell, and which is not good to be on a Tuesday morning. But I was at Target trying to buy some ibuprofen, and I was in the parking lot, and I had my sunglasses on, and I'm like this, and this guy came up to me with his son holding his hand in the parking lot as I was getting out of my car, and he's like, "You're middle Jesus," and I was like, "How did you know?" And and I just, the little kid, they were just so excited to run into me. You live around here? What? And I'm just like trying not to puke. I'm like, yeah, but it was. Yeah. So my wife was like, "You probably should shower when you leave the house." Yeah.
I would say I get recognized in context a good amount, like if I'm at a game store or a game convention or something like that. But just randomly, not in the airport, not down the street. Although the best thing that ever happened to me getting recognized was Portland Retro Gaming Expo. This was like 2 years ago. You guys know who Pro Jared is, right? I think everyone does.
Oh.
He's way bigger than
I
all
like
of
this
us.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pro Jared was at my booth, and he was browsing. And, this kind of it was like right when it opened or right before it, I think it was like when the VIPs had come in or something like that. This guy barrels past Pro Jared, like cuts him off and goes, "Kelsey, will you give me your autograph?" Yes! You see that, Jared?
Yeah. I got recognized at the pizza place the other day.
Oh, God,
Nice.
yes, that's right.
It was kind of weird because it was like 2 blocks from my house, so that's kind of weird. I walked there, and I kind of hungover. I didn't feel great, and I was
Was
like,
it a Tuesday?
maybe. And I was like, I'm just gonna get a slice of pizza. We'll be fine, you know. And I walked in, and this guy's like, "Whoa, YouTuber in the house!" And I had like sunglasses on. I was like, "Oh, sweet God!" Like,
Yeah.
They don't make sunglasses for hair, by the
yeah,
way.
it was like very like. It was the second I walked in the door, and then I was just like, "Oh, this is." Then once I came back
Yeah.
after being shocked, I was like, "Oh no, great! You know, we'll talk. It's fine. This is great." But I also want pizza. Like,
You also had a guy who was like, you walked in somewhere and he's like, "Oh, that's the chick who killed the GameCube."
yeah, actually,
You're like,
I think the weirdest place for me was at school. One of the librarians recognized me when I was studying for a test. I was like, she said, "You're Radical Reggie, right?" And I was like, "What?" that was crazy. So, and probably one of my neighbors actually recognized me from YouTube, which was pretty crazy because, you know.
You're like, you know where I live now.
Yeah.
and where your game collection is.
But it was cool though. But those are the ones that kind of really shocked me. So I was like, whoa. But as I go to more places though, like I go to my local game store, like I get recognized all the time. Now everybody recognizes me. So yeah, pretty
It's
much
fun.
now. It's fun. I like it.
Like in my town, I'm also a local radio DJ. So in my town, I get recognized, but mostly because I've done like radio work or charity work or I MC events. But my most recent story, which is kind of funny, is my daughter was sick, so I ran to Walmart. I grabbed a couple of things for her, and then at the check stand, someone was like, and sometimes they recognize me from the radio, so I just, it's fine. And they're like, "Hey, you're John Riggs. I watch your videos on YouTube. You do like, I like when you fix games and stuff like that." I'm like, "Oh, that's thanks. Yeah, nice to meet you." When I realize I'm holding like a My Little Pony DVD in one hand and like anti-diarrheal medicine in the other hand, I'm like, "Hey, first impressions, awesome. This is the real me.
It's gonna be a fun Saturday night.
I know how to party on a Saturday night. Come on now." So, and he made it very, very brief. So it's cool. He just came up and he's like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, and I just wanted to say hi and I'll get back, So that was, there's that.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hello again.
I have a question for all of you.
Yeah.
I was wondering if at the end of the show, I'm at Flannel, if you guys could all sign my pass.
Of
Yeah, of
course,
course.
yeah.
Yeah. Like even on the way, like we're all here right now, so I mean, this is like the best opportunity to find us, all at
All
once.
together.
Yeah. So if we want to get like a group selfie or something like that, I'm sure we have. Yeah.
Yep.
I was just have a question for all you guys. Have any of you, do you currently have or have ever had a significant other that didn't like the hobby you were in, kind of gave you crap about it?
I dated a guy who wanted me to be into sports.
Do it. What's wrong with you?
I got a lot of Maddens.
That's all I got.
No, you know what? At least on my end, my wife collects. Like going into our marriage, my wife also collects 80s girl toys. So she has a collection of like Rainbow Bright in the box and like Lady Lovely Locks and stuff like that. So it's like she can't give me crap for my collection. So I think I'm pretty safe.
Yep.
And I met my wife at Sierra, so she kind of knew what she's getting into a little bit.
There you go.
My current
I don't have one.
boyfriend's a big collector, so he's a huge NES collector. Almost done with the set.
Yeah.
Cool.
Does Cody know?
He does now.
He doesn't always approve, but I wouldn't say unsupportive. He deals with it in stride.
I have a couple things, just quick things. Have you gone to any of the game stores in here, and do you think, like, they're reasonably priced?
You mean like some of the local stores that are around the town?
From around town.
I've only been to V-Stock.
Yeah.
V-Stock,
We
I went
landed
to
last night.
I think it was
We went to Trade and Game.
Part 2, or is that what it's called? Or
We went,
Yeah.
Trading Game and then Game Trader 2, right?
Yep, yes, those are the ones, yeah.
And both of
I like
them,
them a lot.
at least for my end, both of the prices were as good as the ones that we have in Seattle. So
Yeah.
they're very reasonably priced.
That's my experience. Everything we've seen so far has been pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I was just impressed to find a store that had like Sega Saturn games and Sega CD, because you don't see it on where we're at
Yeah.
anymore. Like,
Yeah.
That's very uncommon to see a Saturn or Sega CD game in a store.
This is a last thing, but, or two things. Just, can I get a picture with like each one of you?
Of course.
And I just want to thank like all of you, because there was a game that I played with friends for a long time, and I could never remember the name.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
And I finally figured it out because of Jason and his PlayStation
Yeah.
2, War of the Monsters.
Oh,
Yeah.
Full
I
game.
love that.
Nice.
Nice.
Thank you.
Very cool, man.
Get some sleep tonight, yeah. Good question, thank you.
Hey, first of all, honored to meet you guys. Thank you so
Hey.
much.
Hey.
I just got into gaming at the early age of 40, so.
Hey, what's wrong with that?
The question I had for you was, if you have someone who actually is trying to get back into gaming, and you had some kind of tips on games to start off with, if you're trying to do retro gaming, what would your ideas be?
Me and Reggie were talking about this on the plane.
Yeah,
about
we
how
were, actually.
From
had
any particular
lulls
system, or?
in our gaming. Like, there was a couple years I didn't play games because I wanted to be popular at school. I don't know.
What? Yeah.
I know, it's stupid. It was like 4th grade, too, or something. Like. But my hook back into gaming was Ocarina of Time. That was my personal one, because it was like, my brother wanted me to beat this boss, and I was like, I don't know. And then I beat it, and it was Queen Goma, and we walked into the Hyrule Field, and I'm just like, that's right. This is amazing. Like, so I don't know, like classic games like that you,
They're
you
easy,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on what you really like too. You know, if you like those type of games, I recommend some of the hits that a lot of people like a Mario 64 is a good one to play. Mario Brothers 3 is my favorite game out of the Mario series, and I don't know, just a lot more of those type of games that everybody knows about.
Do you have a specific system or
that
genre?
kinda
Or,
made names
what do you
for
like?
themselves.
Well, I just dusted off my PlayStation 2, so, because I found
Oh,
it.
love it.
There you go.
That's a great system to start out. And
At my
games-
parents' house, I found like, oh, look, I got a PlayStation 2 that I never knew about.
Yeah.
So yeah, that system right there, yeah.
I love
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Like, yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So I guess it's maybe more of a technical question. So in terms of the constant changes with YouTube, do you feel, for those of you who have maybe Patreons, that it's a necessary component to keep doing YouTube to have a Patreon?
Yes.
Yes.
That's as simple as that, yeah. Like,
Yeah,
Right answer.
Yeah. I mean, the challenge with YouTube is that nobody knows, they don't tell you what the algorithm is that makes my videos show up in your feed. You probably see bigger YouTubers complain that nobody saw my latest video, even though they're subscribed, right? And the reason why YouTube does that is because they don't want people to game the system. If they published exactly what it took to have a successful video, then you'd have all these scammers trying to get to the top, and that would happen. We saw that 5 years ago, big time. So it's a challenge for me. I feel like I'll do everything right, and the video, I don't know if my next video will be popular or not. And so that's definitely, it's a crazy ride to be on. I don't recommend it for most people. To try to do it as sort of like a career. You have to really just love making videos and all that. So to answer your question about Patreon, when I was thinking about quitting my corporate job and doing YouTube full time, Patreon is the thing I was able to go to my wife and go, these people will help me do this for a living. It's not many, in my case it's about 500 people out of 500,000 subscribers. But it's enough to where I could pay my mortgage and my car, and have enough to actually have a little bit of food. So that was definitely a very nice perk, thing to have. And for me, I actually treat Patreon first. Is that those people are the ones that are putting down their hard-earned cash every month to make sure that I do videos every month. So I like it a lot, actually. It's a great service.
Yep.
Thanks. And it's free.
Yeah.
It's free to sign up, so.
Yeah.
It's free for us.
All right. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you feeling?
How you doing?
So
Thank
I
you,
wanted to start off first by telling you a little story and saying thank you. Like the video that you guys did on how to spot counterfeits. Like I've collected for a long time, but I hadn't handled a Super Nintendo box in probably like 20 plus years. And there was a guy in Chicago that was selling a huge collection, and he front-loaded all of the real stuff on the front end and then put about 15 fake ones on the back. And I just want to say thanks. You saved me about $1,800.
So you spotted it right away.
So that's an example of a video that we didn't know if even people would care.
Right.
Like I remember you telling me it's like, you know.
I figured it would do okay, but
Right.
but you know, we have so many people who they don't care that they got a counterfeit. And
Yeah.
if you're paying next to nothing, then I think that's fair.
Sure.
But you should care if you paid near full price for it, right?
Yeah.
You care that you can't resell that thing.
I
and
always
that-
equate it to a car. If you were to go down to a dealership and buy a car and pay full value for a car and you got it home and it was some cheap Chinese knockoff, wouldn't you be upset?
Oh, sure.
Absolutely you would. But people online would be like, well, it still gets me to the grocery store. No, I'm sorry, you paid 30 grand for it. You know what I mean? And so that was the nice thing about that video, was to kind of educate and use your knowledge, because she deals with this all the time. Every
Sure.
collection comes in, you know, they're checking it. They also, they replace the batteries whether they need it to or not. I mean, they're really going above and
Yeah.
beyond there.
And plenty of people, you know, I don't necessarily think, just like in your case, I mean, most people just don't know. And they're not trying to maliciously sell me a counterfeit and like, ha, I'm going to trick her, you know. But, you know, we've got kids and parents and stuff, and they were like, I want Pokemon Emerald, and so they ordered Pokemon Emerald on eBay. You don't know that it's going to arrive fake. You don't know, you haven't seen a Game Boy Advance game in maybe 15 years, you know. So we have a lot of gentle education that understanding that it's probably not on purpose, but that, you know, here's why we can't take it. So I'm glad it's done well for a lot of people, that it's helped them.
My question was going to be, what is the origin story of how you guys met one another? Was it all the power of the internet, or?
They showed up at my house and then they never left.
I was actually working at a game store with an old friend, and Jason had been looking for the store for like a couple of weeks because we had posted it on Craigslist.
When he says store, it's a closet, by the way.
It was really small. It was,
Yeah.
it was hard to find, but
Yeah.
he finally got in there, and we started talking about, you told us you're a YouTuber, and we started talking
I
about
think I had
games.
1,000 subscribers, if that. It was incredible. Yeah.
Damn, back then, wow, man, that's a while ago.
But Reggie and I had a connection immediately. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, because he wasn't the owner, he was one of the employees, but I just remember you immediately tried to, like, get me to buy some Saturn shoot 'em ups.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly, yeah. And this is when Saturn stuff was easy to find,
Yeah.
too, so, I started telling Jason all my knowledge about games and everything, and, yeah.
I was like,
Became
come on
friends. We've been friends ever
over,
since.
this creepy guy's house with a camera.
And we met because I was working at another castle.
Yep.
And you would shop there, so.
Yeah, and again, with Kinsey, it was another kind of connection where I'm just like, you know, she wasn't grumpy. She was excited to be in her store and very helpful. And, you know, because at that time I was really learning a lot because I came from a PC background. And so, and also with Reggie, I'm like, Saturn? What is this? You know, with Kinsey, it was very similar. I remember you had a stack of games and I was just like, show me the good ones. And, you know, and so that's kind of how that happened as well.
I don't think you and I had like an immediate connection. I was just sort of introduced to you, and then like a year or so down the line, you heard me on a podcast or something.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with Kelsey, she was on a podcast from a friend of ours, and I didn't really know much about her, but I remember listening to the podcast going, God, she knows so much. Like, it's, you know, and then you're part of the community, and so I reached out to her. I'm like, are you interested in coming on and talking? Because for my YouTube channel, I never pretended that I know everything. There's a lot of YouTubers out there who pretend that they know
Sure.
everything,
You can
and
tell, too.
to me, that's not real. There are 40 years worth of video games, and nobody knows everything. It's like saying you know everything about music. So my goal was to bring people on who could be the experts that I could ask them about.
Kind of fill in those gaps.
Yeah, so some people kind of accuse me sometimes of like, oh, he's pretending not to know anything. Well, I'm also trying to be the audience and ask the questions like, why, you know, sort of be that person. Kind of like almost like a talk show host a little bit, you know, without the tie and the suit, you know. And then I don't remember how we met.
It was a wild night.
Yeah, there was
No,
a
I
wild
know.
night.
Lots
I
of
remember
lube.
this night.
Lots of
Oh,
lube.
yeah.
I woke up and we were spooning her. I don't remember. No.
You want to go camping?
I have vague memory. It was like, because we're in the Northwest and we go to the conventions, And I didn't, before I was even on his channel, I didn't really watch YouTube for shows. I'd look up old, Headbangers Ball music videos and stuff like that, wrestling clips and stuff. So it wasn't until but I would see him at the conventions, and there's a Midwest hospitality, there's a Northwest hospitality too, where everyone's just kind of chill with each other and cool and shaking hands and all that. So I was like, everyone's shaking his hand, but everyone's shaking everyone's hand. And it wasn't until later on, I'd see him there, introduce myself, but sure, I'm here too. And it wasn't, you were hosting a Gamer Eats party.
Oh, okay.
And that's when Reggie was and I knew Reggie from, and we're also all in the same, the Seattle gaming forum or whatever. And that's when Reggie was Reggie was like, hey, I'm going to go with Jason's Gamer Eats party. I'm going to invite you along. I was like, he don't even know who I am, And at this time, I know that he's on YouTube or whatever, but still. And then from what Reggie said, he was like, oh yeah, I showed him your picture, and you're like, oh yeah, he looks familiar. So I was like, that's good enough for me. So I drove up, I live it's a 2-hour drive for me, but it's not bad. And then once we were there at his house and having this Gamer Eats party, so my very, very first video with you, you can see me in the background of a Gamer Eats party. And I don't really say anything. I'm just kind of standing there lurking,
Yeah.
Which is what I do great.
I'm in that video.
Yeah. You are in that video. I think we're all in it.
Crazy Joe, right?
And Joe's in that video
Dude,
too.
Crazy Joe showed up, drank way too much in about 5 minutes and passed out. And did he puke?
In a recliner thing.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, he was in a recliner for a minute.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was hilarious.
Crazy Joe's in one of the intros, he's the guy who's in the trunk and in Reggie's bathroom and stuff.
Or in the bathroom at Reggie's house. We try to throw him in places, yeah.
So, and we brought our game hack. So I made Crazy Joe a game hack, and Reggie brought his game hack. And we're just kind of standing there playing these game hacks, and then I remember you saying oh, this is kind of cool. And I was like, there should be a Metal Jesus hack, And he's like, yeah, there should. and that's when I said, well, you like shooters? Okay, here's all these Famicom shooters that you'd like. And that's when you were like, oh, you know a lot about Famicom. Do you want to do a Famicom video with me? Right. So then our first video was the Famicom video, the Famicom gems or whatever. Yeah. Then the restraining order hasn't happened yet. So.
No, and the rest is history.
Checks in the mail. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So thanks, guys, for being here and for taking our questions.
Yeah.
I
love the shirt, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Amiga CD32. Do you guys collect for Amiga?
I have an Amiga.
I gotta get the system first.
The big one.
Oh, okay.
I got yeah.
There's a thing in the way.
Oh, okay.
Amiga CDs.
A Amiga.
Yeah.
So I've been to Pink Gorilla. It's an awesome store.
Thank you.
And nobody paid me to say that, I promise. So my question was, what is the rarest or most expensive item that you've sold at that store that you're aware of?
Most expensive one we have in the store right now is the Exertainment bike I'm still trying to get rid of. I have no room for it.
You bought it, did the video, and now you're done with it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
We've had, pretty recently we had the RANDNet starter kit, which is the N64 disk drive, whole starter kit thing, complete in box, with all the plastic and everything. Not sealed, but with the plastic on everything. How much was that, Cody? Was that $850 or something like that? It was quite a bit.
Does it come with the drive, or is it just the...
Yeah.
Oh, it does,
yeah.
okay.
There's the whole, it's what you would have got in the mail when you ordered it.
I see.
You had that 360 controller.
Oh, thank you. That's right. What was that 360?
Oh, I remember.
Thank you. Why don't you tell this, because I forgot. We sold it for a lot of money, though.
It wasn't the Livestreams 5. It was the launch team.
Yes.
The launch team controller.
Sorry, that was me working it out in my brain.
Okay.
But it was $1,100.
Yeah, Cody, come up here.
All right.
Cody, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, with the truth.
Yeah, it was, do you guys remember the old blade system with the 360?
Yeah.
Real old school. So they went to the live experience, the new dashboard, and there was a team of I don't remember, 8 or 10 people, and each one of them got this controller, so there's none of them. It sold for $1,000 or something. It was crazy.
Huh.
It's just a white controller that says 2008 live event.
Yeah.
Wow.
And somebody bought it.
Well, it was an auction on eBay. It climbed really high.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it was so rare that you can't put a price on it. It's just whatever.
Do you remember where you shipped it to? Just curious. Was it in Washington?
I don't. And you know who we got it from? I actually ended up looking up the guy who traded it in to see if he was someone who worked on it, but he was just a UPS worker. So I don't know how he got it. Maybe a Goodwill or something.
Yeah, Goodwill. That's where I've gotten all
He intercepted it.
That's not
instead of
creepy at all,
delivering
by
it to
the way. And we've had little Samson and stuff, which is technically more money, but it's not as rare or as cool as that. So.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi again. So
Hey.
I have
Welcome
two
back.
questions this time. What's your favorite game of all time, and what's your most anticipated game of the next few years?
I knew we were gonna get this question.
Yeah.
I never know how to
studied.
answer this.
You never have, yeah.
I'll start off. My favorite game of all time And this is currently, right now, Steambot Chronicles for PlayStation
For
2.
me.
Nobody knows about it. So this is a fantastic sandbox game, funny dialogue. It's about, like, I like steampunk type games, so that's why it really, really, like, charmed me. So that's my favorite game of all time right now, Steambot Chronicles. It might be here if somebody wants to pick it up. So.
Everybody run down.
Yeah, really.
You might find it.
No, just right now. They're doing eBay searches right now. What are you looking at? Okay.
And your most anticipated game?
I guess I would say nobody knows about this game either. Disaster Report 4. I don't know if it'll be released here in America. I hope it is, because I'm a part of it. I like that series. I forgot what the Japanese name of it is, but it's basically like a bunch of natural disasters happening in the world, and you're trying to survive. Really interesting game. We got the first 2 here on PS2, and hopefully we'll get the next 2 here. But part 4 is the one I want. So, yeah. What did we see?
My favorite game of all time is Final Fantasy IX.
Yay.
So good. We talked about it on the plane for a while.
We did, actually.
I'm like, Final Fantasy IX, you say? You can talk about this for a while. And my most anticipated game is Cyberpunk.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it.
She stole yours. Got a figure too.
Boy, I have so many favorite games. My stock answer is, of course, always Hero on the Atari 2600. It's just, everyone has that one game that you remember as a young kid that changed everything. And the Hero was the game that made me a gamer. I was very young when that game came out. And it happens to be one of the best Atari 2600 games ever made. So it's one of those games where I will buy a copy every time I see it, just because I get this thing where I'm like, my other copies are going to get rusty and I'll never be able to play it again, even though I could emulate it. But Cyberpunk, we got to see it at E3. So we actually, Kelsey and I got behind the curtain to see that game. And I got to tell you, it was amazing.
It's also not coming out anytime soon based on what we saw.
Yeah, so I'm not going to choose that. I will say the first thing that came to mind, I really like the new Tomb Raider games. The last couple that have been on like the PlayStation 4, the current gen, have been really good. So I'm actually looking forward to the one that comes out this fall.
Awesome.
I don't have a favorite game. No one does.
Animal Crossing.
I mean, maybe, but if we're talking like the game that really cemented everything for me as a gamer, it would be probably like Pokemon Red or Blue. I wouldn't say it's my favorite game of all time, but it's like a pretty good stock answer. That's that game means a lot to me, right?
Serious.
So does Animal Crossing, but so does Monster Hunter, and there's all kinds of stuff. But my most anticipated game is the new Monster Hunter that's coming out on Switch, which I actually already got in Japanese, but it's really hard to play in Japanese. So I'm looking forward to being able to actually play it.
My go-to answer is Zelda 2: The Adventures of Link. Only because I like the RPG elements, but I don't like turn-based RPGs. So I like games that are like that's kind of my go-to answer. To ask me tomorrow, it'll be different. It'll be something else. But my most anticipated is, it's already out on Steam, but they're releasing Fire Pro Wrestling World for the PlayStation 4. So I've been looking forward to that. I've been looking forward to a new Fire Pro Wrestling game for the last several years, or if I say several, it's probably been a few years. Actually, it has been several years by now. So, I'm looking forward to that, 100%.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hey.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
So, obviously you all have lives outside of what we see. How do you balance being a YouTube personality with everything else that's going on with your life, whether it's family, job, everything else?
We don't help.
So
get us out.
I think I'm the only one who does YouTube full time. Do you use YouTube? No, I got to school and everything, so okay. I'll just go real quick. It's tough for me, but what I do is I use Jason as an example. Like I try to be ahead of the game, so I have a couple videos ready to go, and then that way I can focus on other stuff. But really, what it does, it eats up my gaming time. So that's the hard part. But I usually make it work, so it's all right for me.
I know for me personally, I mentioned that I left a corporate IT help desk job, and I can tell you I work way harder now, which I didn't expect, but because it doesn't end at 5. I work weekends. It's funny because people ask me what day it is. I won't know. I don't know if it's Sunday or Tuesday, because kind of like a person who works for themselves at home, I can work all the time. And also, video editing takes forever. I'm pretty fast at it, but it still takes a lot of time. So for me, thankfully, my wife is very understanding. She's a real estate agent as well. She's a real estate agent, so her hours are crazy too. So it just kind of works out that we both try to, walk the dogs in the morning, hang out, that sort of stuff, and make time for each other.
I've got my store, so that's where I'm at most of the time, and it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for other stuff. So yeah, I'm not very good at balancing it, to be completely honest. We definitely have to carve out, when I film with Jason, we have to carve out days at least a week in advance usually, because I gotta say, okay, I gotta take this day off to do it.
I have a really demanding job outside of YouTube. So like last week I worked 60 hours, like week before that I worked 60 hours,
Yeah.
like it's insane. And I am not organized or ahead of the game. So that's what happens.
Yeah. No, and I have a full-time job and a fuller time family. So I mean that takes precedence. And then fortunately, and thank you for putting up with me, but like my videos I think are super simple. I record everything on my cell phone. I do very minimal edits. So for me, like doing a video and editing it and then uploading it takes me not very I never choose the shirts I wear in my videos. It's literally the shirt I was wearing that day. And then fortunately, like my daughters love being on YouTube. It's like when we were kids, we wanted to be on the news because then we'd be on TV. So my kids watch YouTube. My kids don't watch TV. My kids watch YouTube. So then they want to be on my channel, and I'd have to be very, very protective about it. So I have probably over, oh good lord, I want to say like 2,000 words that are banned on for comments and stuff that never get filtered through, and I'd probably have 100,000 subs by now if I actually let all the comments through. But no, I do all that first, and then again with the YouTube thing and the things I do, especially where it's like. And some of my most viewed videos are just me literally holding my phone up to a computer saying, oh, look at this cool little 3/4 arcade machine. That's pretty cool. And I'll get way more views than, something that took all day editing and filming and, constructing. So I have a full-time job, and if, I just have that mentality of YouTube as a hobby, and I'll get to it when I get to it, So it's handy for me. I just have that mentality.
That reminds me is that I remember last year, on a Tuesday, I released a video where literally, I think either you step down off the stool or I step up. It's 20 seconds long, right? And she's like, are you going to release that? I'm like, it's funny, right? It got tons of views. It got
Some people were mad, but...
Some people were mad. They felt ripped off. But you never know, I'm willing to actually take a little bit of risk on stuff like that. It's fun to do,
Cool. Thank you.
Hey, everyone.
Hey.
So what was the last game that you guys got really sucked into?
For me, it was Horizon Zero Dawn, PS4.
Same.
I did almost
We're always talking about it.
I know.
Right. I think I almost platinumed that game. I'm going to try to, but yeah, that game was amazing to me. So that was the last big one that I played that I really enjoyed. So,
Same.
yeah.
Same.
Yeah, it was the last game I couldn't wait to get home from work to play.
Yeah.
I had that feeling, and that's such a good feeling.
Yeah, that's a great game.
I've been playing that off, but I'll
Now you gotta play it.
Yeah, it's great.
2 recommendations.
3.
Lately, I've been playing this game on the Switch. It's also on PS4 and Steam and everything. It's called Skyforce Anniversary. It's basically a top-down, old-school arcade shooter, right? And it started on mobile, but they stripped all that stuff out, and they basically put the full version on. For an old, school shooter, I have 25, 30 hours in that game because it has RPG elements in it. So you're leveling up, you're doing missions. It's amazing. I love that game.
What was that called again?
Skyforce Anniversary.
It's like a yellow
It is really
case,
good.
and I saw one
It
down
is
there too.
so good. Yeah, there's actually a couple copies
I don't know
down
if they're still there.
There's a couple copies down there, yeah. So.
Yeah, if you
It's
like.
a cheaper download than, because I think it's a limited run game, right? For the...
But,
Yeah, it's a-
Oh,
yeah,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
I got it on the Switch to the eShop, and I think it was $10.
Yeah.
It's
really good.
it's amazing.
I did get pretty sucked into Octopath Traveler, but now it's kind of fading a little bit, so I don't really want to count that. I guess the last one that I was literally can't put this down was just Monster Hunter World, which was, the first day it came out, I think I put 16 hours into it.
Oh.
I was playing with people, so it wasn't
Okay.
locked in a dark room. But I was, Yeah, that was a lot of gaming. My eyes hurt for a while after that.
And again, having like a full-time job and family, like my gaming time is limited as well. But the last game I kind of got sucked into, I guess, would be, I'm a huge fan of the PlayStation VR. So it was probably like Resident Evil 7 that I beat exclusively through VR. So, but it got to a point where like you're kind of in there and you're wearing your headphones and you kind of cut out the world. And I'd play this, maybe on a weekend until like 2 or 3 in the morning. But what sucks about the PlayStation VR is you don't see how you didn't vacuum when you promised your wife you would that night because everything's enclosed off and you're like, okay, I'm gonna stop this game, take off my,
That's even
good
scarier.
Lord. I have empty beer bottles and stuff. I was like, I'm just gonna go back into this world and forget I was here. But it was probably that, but I mean, that's why I like PlayStation VR because most of the games are like 2-hour experiences or something like that, so.
I actually have a follow-up question for you, John.
Yeah.
Are there any other games like Zelda 2 with the side-scrolling RPG elements that you'd recommend?
There's the Paper Mario for the Wii is that way. I mean, most of the Paper Mario games are kind of turn-based RPG, but the one for the Wii is you jump on the Goomba and you get your experience points. And that was one I was like, I try to like the Paper Mario games. I did play them about halfway through, and I'm just like, then I just move on, But that one I was able to go through. And there are a few of them that are out there like that, but it's...
I'm thinking like Faxanadu.
Yeah, no, Faxanadu would be a great example. I love Faxanadu, so stuff like that were like side-scrolling, but like Metroidvania, but you could still level yourself up. I mean, you could consider, I guess, like the Castlevania games, not just Symphony of the Night for the PlayStation, but the ones for the DS. The 3 Castlevania games for the DS are amazing.
Okay, thanks, guys.
So we're getting a signal to wrap up here.
We're wrapping up?
Yeah, because
All right.
the next panel is going to start here. So just maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Yeah, we'll take these 2 right here.
Just quick for Jason. There was a YouTube video recently, I don't remember the YouTuber's name, but it was basically talking about how you were single-handedly affecting the price.
Oh,
of
yeah.
gaming. And I was curious if you had seen the video and what your thoughts were on that topic.
Yeah.
And
That
like,
was
like
quite-
were you aware of it when?
I was.
So he contacted you?
He did. Yeah, and he basically, which is very cool. He basically was like, so this guy is a mathematician or an analyst or something. So basically he has a background in analyzing lots of data. And he reached out to me and he was like, there's all this controversy about how your hidden gems videos are raising the price of games, and I just want to let you know that I'm going to do this video. It was sort of like a courtesy thing. You didn't have to do that. I was like, boy, this could be interesting. I had no idea, right? Because I don't really think about it. And I've talked to these guys before when we do our videos. I don't worry about the price of games because, one, my audience is worldwide, and also some people just download them, or they'll play them on the eShop, or they'll get them from Steam or whatever. So I don't want to focus necessarily on price all the time, right? So that's my thing. So I don't really know. I don't track it. I'm not a reseller myself.
And then prices are changing all the time.
And they're changing all the time. Because for instance, 5 years ago, Atari was kind of still hot. Now you can't give that stuff away sometimes, right? So anyways, he reached out to me. Okay, cool. And it was fascinating to watch because basically he took 5 years. He looked at every single one of my videos that I've ever, in 5 years, put them into a spreadsheet, went on to pricecharting.com and also sold off of eBay and then tracked all this information. And the results were actually fairly mixed. It was like, well, yes, our video might bump up in the first week or 2, but then those people kind of stop buying and it dies back down. And he also concluded that, like, for instance, some systems that, like the Wii U, I didn't affect at all. And so I thought that was really interesting. So, the answer is that the retro market is worldwide, and people can go on eBay and buy from all around the world. So if you talk to somebody from Australia, well, Australians don't really have like a secondary market, so they buy a lot of American games, and it's cheaper to do that and ship over to Australia. So it's markets like that will affect it way more than my YouTube channel would. So
cool.
Yeah, interesting question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Last one.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
So I'm not like a very versed gamer, but like as a kid I played the Nintendo 64, and then when my kids became old enough to like kind of read English and manage their opposing thumbs,
Yep.
I threw an Xbox in their hand, got them Kung Fu Panda, and they've taken off since then. So
Nice.
like I'm really glad they're into games, but then I got them a Nintendo Switch in March,
Nice.
and I'm trying to play it, but there's 2 joysticks, and the world view is going this way, and this one's to manage my moving, and I can't get my head around it.
Right.
I was like, it's like I need two brains. And so now my son and I laugh, like, oh, Mom, you don't have two brains, so you can't play the Switch. Ha ha. Is there a way I can overcome that?
One thing that comes to mind when people, and they have trouble, especially with first-person games,
Yeah.
a really, really good game to help that actually is Portal.
Oh,
It
really?
really is, like on the Xbox 360.
Yeah, I could
because,
see
like,
that.
So if it was an Xbox 360 that you have, like,
Yeah.
at first it's very slow and like it teaches you how to play.
Yeah.
And I've played that game with someone who like wasn't a gamer, and it was a slow start, but then it was fine. And just because it's so slow, people aren't shooting at you, you know.
Yeah,
like-
there's no shooting in that
Yeah.
game like a traditional shooter.
Yeah, there's no one's like sneaking up behind you.
Yeah,
or
it's a
anything.
puzzle
You
game.
you
Yeah,
take
it's a
your
puzzle
time.
game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they like, it starts with one hand at a time, and then the other hand, and then you
Oh, not
combine.
quite, not quite like that,
Not
but no,
quite
it's
like that, but
yeah. Or you can. or
it'll help.
They have other games that are not like first person. You know, you can choose to use the D-pad, for instance, or if you want to.
yeah, or do like a 2D game. or
Even though it's on
something
the
like that.
Xbox One, there's plenty of games that still look like, you know, NES or Super Nintendo era. So you can still use the D-pad and like the jump and punch buttons, you know.
I also think too, like a third-person platformer might be good to start off on. Like for instance, a lot of people that I know, when the PlayStation 2 came out, Ratchet and Clank was what the game that turned people into gamers. Because even though it's kind of awkward, you're behind the character, but you learn to kind of do the dual thumb thing fairly easily. And it's also kind of kiddie-friendly, and it's not too threatening. I would check out Ratchet and Clank. It's also on the PlayStation 3 and 4, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and those are fun.
Good luck. All right, that's it. Huh?
Awesome. All right, thank you guys so very much for having us. Appreciate it.
And also a big quick shout out to the organizers of the Missouri Game Con for inviting us out here.
Thank you.